The message came on a Tuesday. After decades of sending signals into the void, humanity had almost given up hope of a response. Then, without warning, every radio telescope on Earth picked up the same transmission. It was clear, structured, and unmistakably artificial. James Miller was eating a sandwich in the NASA cafeteria when the alarm started blaring. As the lead communications specialist for the International Space Coalition, he was among the first to see the translated message. Greetings, people of Earth. We are the Galactic Concord, a union of civilized species. Your signals have reached our outer monitoring stations. We wish to establish formal contact. Within hours, governments worldwide scrambled to form a response team. James found himself appointed as humanity's primary diplomatic representative, not because he was the most qualified diplomat, but because he understood communication systems better than anyone else on the planet. "I'm an engineer, not a politician," James protested when told of his new role. "Exactly," said Director Patel, his boss. "They'll respect technical knowledge more than smooth talking. Besides, you think faster on your feet than anyone I know." 3 days later, a sleek silver ship appeared in Earth's orbit. It made no attempt to hide or use stealth. It simply arrived, positioning itself in full view of Earth's observation systems. The ship was unlike anything humans had built. Nearly a mile long, its hull flowed like liquid metal, with no visible seams or joints. It dwarfed the International Space Station, making humanity's greatest space achievement look like a child's toy by comparison. A shuttle detached from the main vessel and descended toward the designated landing site, a hastily prepared airfield outside of Geneva. World leaders, scientists, and military personnel gathered to witness humanity's first extraterrestrial visitors. James stood at the front of the welcoming committee, trying to control his breathing. The shuttle touched down without a sound, hovering momentarily before settling on the tarmac. A door slid open, revealing 3 figures. The aliens walked with a smooth grace despite their unusual appearance. Their leader stood nearly 7 feet tall, with iridescent blue skin that seemed to shimmer in the sunlight. 4 arms emerged from a broad torso, and a crest of fin-like appendages crowned its head. "I am Admiral Dorax," the alien said, its voice surprisingly clear and understandable through what must have been some kind of translation device. "Chief Representative of the Galactic Concord Assessment Division." James stepped forward. "James Miller, representing Earth. We welcome you to our planet." Admiral Dorax's large, multifaceted eyes studied James carefully. "Your species has achieved much in a short time. However, we have concerns about your readiness to join the wider galactic community." The following days were filled with meetings, presentations, and tours of Earth's major facilities. The aliens were polite but clearly unimpressed by much of what they saw. During a tour of NASA's Spacecraft Development Center, Admiral Dorax examined the latest deep space vessel prototype with what James was beginning to recognize as disappointment. "This is your most advanced ship?" the Admiral asked, running a 3-fingered hand along the hull. "Yes," James replied. "It's designed to reach Mars in just 30 days. Admiral Dorax made a sound that might have been a sigh. "At such speeds, you would be unable to outrun even the slowest patrol vessels of the Void Swarm." "The Void Swarm?" James asked. "One of many threats that exist beyond your solar system," Dorax explained. "They consume worlds with insufficient defenses. This is why the Concord exists, mutual protection." That evening, in a private meeting with Earth's Security Council, the aliens were more direct. "Your planet possesses valuable resources and a strategic position," said Dorax, "but your fleet is virtually non-existent. We've focused our efforts on sustainable development and solving our own problems before expanding outward," explained the UN Secretary General. Admiral Dorax's fins flattened against his head. A gesture James had learned indicated skepticism. "Noble goals, but the galaxy does not reward the unprepared," said the Admiral. "The Concord can offer protection, but we must assess whether Earth would be a burden or an asset to our alliance." Later, James found himself alone with one of the alien delegation's junior members, an engineer named Krell. Unlike the others, Krell seemed genuinely curious about human technology. "Your power generation methods are unusual," Krell said as they examined a fusion research facility. "You've taken different paths than most species." "Necessity drives innovation," James replied. "We've had to work with limited resources." Krell's head tilted. "Yet you accomplish much with little. Our sensors detected over 2,000 satellites in orbit, but only a handful of actual vessels. Why build so many small devices instead of proper ships?" "Different purposes require different tools," James explained. "We network our systems together rather than building single large platforms." Krell seemed to consider this. Interesting approach. "Admiral Dorax will still be concerned about your defensive capabilities, however." "Why is the Concorde so focused on military strength?" James asked carefully. Krell's voice lowered. "Because we have seen what happens to worlds that cannot defend themselves. The Void Swarm has consumed 17 civilizations in the past century alone. The Concorde was formed after the third extinction." James felt a chill. "And you think Earth could be a target?" "All resource-rich worlds are targets," Krell replied. "And your planet has already been broadcasting its location for decades." That night, James couldn't sleep. He reviewed everything he'd learned about the Concorde. They seemed benevolent, but their obsession with fleet size and military power was troubling. If Earth wanted to join the galactic community, they would need to prove their worth. The following morning, James made a proposal to Director Patel. "They're judging us by their standards, not ours," he said. "We need to show them what humans can really do." "And how do you suggest we do that?" Patel asked. James smiled. "By playing to our strengths. If they want to see our fleet, let's show them something they've never imagined." Admiral Dorax watched from the observation deck as Earth rotated slowly below. His second-in-command approached with a data tablet. "Assessment results, Admiral. Their technology is at least a century behind Concorde standards. Their space vessels number fewer than 50, and none have weapons capable of repelling even a minor incursion." Dorax's fins rippled with concern. "They are so vulnerable, yet so unaware of the danger. They think their isolation protects them. Shall I prepare the protection proposal? The standard resource tribute in exchange for a defensive fleet?" Dorax considered for a moment. "Yes, but include additional cultural and technological assessments. There's something about these humans that troubles me. They lack proper ships, yet they've somehow survived and thrived. I want to understand how before we proceed." Little did the Admiral know, humanity was about to redefine what it meant to have a fleet. The Concorde assessment team arrived 1 week after Admiral Dorax's initial visit. 5 alien specialists, each an expert in different fields, transported down to Earth in a smaller shuttle that gleamed like polished obsidian under the morning sun. James Miller waited for them at the newly established Interspecies Coordination Center, a repurposed convention hall in Geneva. Beside him stood Tom Reed and Anna Wilson, Earth's top scientists in propulsion physics and materials engineering. "Remember," James whispered to his colleagues, "they're looking for weakness. Don't give them any." The lead assessor, a tall alien named Vex, stepped forward. Unlike Admiral Dorax, Vex's skin was a pale green with geometric patterns that seemed to shift as he moved. "We will begin our evaluation immediately," Vex announced without preamble. "First, we must inspect your orbital defenses." James exchanged glances with Tom. "Of course, we've prepared transport to our space elevator in Ecuador." Vex's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. "Space elevator. You have functioning gravity manipulation technology." "No," Anna replied. "We use carbon nanotube cables. Simple physics." The aliens conferred quietly among themselves. James caught the word primitive several times. "We will use our own transport," Vex decided. "It will be faster." The human delegation soon found themselves aboard the alien shuttle, rising through the atmosphere at a speed that made Earth's fastest rockets seem like bicycles. The curve of the planet appeared below them, blue and white, and breathtaking. "Your planet is quite beautiful," commented one of the aliens, a specialist named Mira who focused on resource assessment, "rich in water and biodiversity. Very appealing to the Void Swarm." "You keep mentioning this Void Swarm," Tom said. "What exactly are they?" Vex gestured toward a view screen, which flickered to life, showing something that resembled a massive cloud of metallic insects. "They are a collective consciousness that spreads across the galaxy. They consume worlds, strip mining them of all useful elements, and leaving lifeless husks behind." The humans watched in horror as the recording showed an orange-colored planet being swarmed, and then gradually turning gray as its resources were extracted. "This happened 3 standard cycles ago," Vex said. "The planet had minimal defenses, much like Earth." James felt a chill run down his spine. "And that's why you're so focused on our fleet capacity." "Precisely," Vex replied. "Now, please direct us to your primary defense vessels." The next few hours were uncomfortable. The assessment team visited the International Space Station, examined Earth's handful of military satellites, and reviewed plans for the Mars Defense Initiative, humanity's most ambitious space military project to date. With each inspection, the aliens' disappointment became more evident. "This is insufficient," Vex finally declared as they examined the blueprints for Earth's newest spacecraft, a vessel designed to intercept asteroids. This would not survive first contact with even a scout party from the Void Swarm. Tom Reed, who had been quiet for most of the tour, finally spoke up. "Perhaps you'd be interested in seeing our experimental propulsion lab." Vex seemed ready to dismiss the suggestion, but one of the other assessors, a technical specialist named Orion, raised a hand. "I would like to see this." At the Global Advanced Propulsion Laboratory in Switzerland, Tom led the group through security and into a massive underground facility. At the center of the main chamber sat what looked like a small metal sphere, about the size of a beach ball, surrounded by complex equipment. "What is this?" Orion asked, genuine curiosity in his voice for the first time. "We call it the gravity lens drive," Tom explained. "It creates a focused distortion in space-time, allowing for movement without traditional propulsion." "Impossible," Vex said flatly. "Your species does not have the mathematical knowledge for such technology." Tom smiled slightly. "Would you like a demonstration?" Before the aliens could respond, Tom activated a control panel. The sphere hummed softly, then vanished. A moment later, it reappeared on the other side of the room. The aliens fell silent. "How far can this device travel?" Orion asked finally. "Currently, we've tested it to the moon and back," Anna Wilson said, stepping forward. "But theoretically, there's no upper limit to the distance. The real challenge is precision targeting over longer jumps." "And how many vessels have you equipped with this technology?" Vex demanded. James interceded. "None yet. It's still experimental." Vex's skin patterns darkened. "So you have promising technology that you failed to implement in your defense systems. This confirms our concerns about your species' readiness." As they left the lab, Orion fell into step beside James. "Your approach is unusual. Most species develop standard fleet vessels before attempting such advanced physics. Humans tend to do things our own way," James replied. "Sometimes we skip steps. Skipping steps leads to vulnerability," Vex called from ahead of them. "The Concord protocols exist for a reason." Back at the Coordination Center, the assessment team prepared their formal report. James and his colleagues waited anxiously in an adjoining room. "They're not impressed," Anna said quietly, "no matter what we show them." Tom nodded. "They're judging us by their standards. Fleet size, ship tonnage, weapon yields. They're missing the bigger picture." "Which is?" James asked. "That humans have never approached space the way they do," Tom replied. "We network. We adapt. We find solutions that don't require brute force. The door opened, and Vex entered with the assessment team. He carried what looked like a crystal tablet. "We have completed our evaluation," Vex announced. "Earth's defensive capabilities are severely inadequate by Concord standards. You have promising theoretical research but no practical implementation. Your orbital assets are unshielded and vulnerable." James took a deep breath. "And your recommendation?" "The Concord is prepared to offer provisional membership and protection," Vex stated, "in exchange for resource rights and technology sharing." "What kind of resources?" Anna asked sharply. 20% of your planetary rare earth elements, 30% of your water ice from your polar regions, and mining rights to your lunar surface, Mira replied matter-of-factly. "Standard rates for protection of a pre-fleet civilization." Tom's face reddened. "That's a very generous offer," James cut in, giving Tom a warning glance. "We'll need to discuss this with our world leaders." "Of course," Vex said. "Admiral Dorax will return in 3 of your weeks to receive your answer. I suggest you use that time wisely to consider the alternative." After the aliens departed, James called an emergency meeting with Earth's Defense Council. "They think we're helpless," he told the assembled leaders. "They're offering protection in exchange for what amounts to colonization." "What choice do we have?" asked the Russian general. "You've seen what this void swarm can do." James looked at Tom and Anna. "We need to show them what humans can really do when our backs are against the wall. We need to think differently." "What are you suggesting?" Director Patil asked. James smiled grimly. "If they want to see a fleet, let's give them something they've never imagined." In orbit above Earth, a small probe from the Concorde ship continued to monitor all transmissions. It recorded a sudden increase in global communications, emergency meetings of world governments, and the mobilization of scientific teams worldwide. Aboard the main vessel, Admiral Dorax reviewed the assessment report with concern. "They have potential," he mused, "but they lack the fundamental understanding of galactic threats." His second-in-command nodded. "The resource agreement is fair. Many worlds have accepted similar terms." "Perhaps," Dorax replied, watching Earth rotate slowly on the view screen. "But something about these humans troubles me. They keep surprising us. I wonder what they'll do next." 3 weeks passed in a flurry of global activity. In every major nation, scientists worked around the clock. Military bases buzzed with unusual movements. Satellite launches increased threefold. Small, seemingly insignificant devices that the Concorde observers dismissed as primitive monitoring equipment. James Miller barely slept. Dark circles formed under his eyes as he coordinated between governments, scientists, and military leaders. The plan was ambitious, perhaps impossible, but it was Earth's best hope. Admiral Dorax's ship returned exactly on schedule, appearing suddenly in orbit like a silver needle against the black of space. This time, the Admiral brought a larger delegation, 20 senior Concorde officials in 3 shuttles that descended toward the Geneva landing site. "They're showing off their fleet strength," Anna Wilson muttered as they watched the shuttles land in perfect formation. "Subtle intimidation tactics. Let them posture," Tom Reed replied. "It'll make what comes next even better." James straightened his tie. "Remember the plan. Stay calm, no matter what they say." Admiral Dorax emerged from the lead shuttle, his blue skin catching the sunlight. Behind him came Vex and several new aliens of different species, representatives from the Concorde's governing council. "James Miller," Dorax said, inclining his head slightly, "we have reviewed the assessment report in detail and come to deliver the Concorde's formal proposal." The meeting took place in the Grand Assembly Hall of the United Nations. Representatives from every Earth nation filled the chamber, facing the alien delegation across a wide table. A tall, insect-like alien named Counselor Xin stepped forward, mandibles clicking as she spoke through her translator. "The Galactic Concorde has existed for 12,000 standard cycles," she began. "In that time, we have incorporated 317 worlds into our protective alliance. Each member contributes according to their abilities and receives protection according to their needs. Holographic displays activated around the room, showing images of various planets and space stations. These worlds once stood alone, as Earth does now. Sin continued. Many no longer exist. The images shifted to show barren, lifeless planets. The void swarm shows no mercy to the unprepared. The UN Secretary General leaned forward. We understand the threat, Counselor. What exactly are you proposing? Admiral Dorax took over. The Concorde will station a defensive fleet in your system, 12 capital ships and supporting vessels. In exchange, Earth will provide resources as outlined in our proposal, plus hosting rights for 3 Concorde bases on your planet and 5 in your orbital space. A murmur ran through the human delegation. And if we decline? Asked the Secretary General. Dorax's fins flattened against his head. The Concorde cannot force protection on any world. But understand this. The void swarm is approaching this sector. Our intelligence suggests that it will reach your system within 1 standard cycle, approximately 14 Earth months. Without Concorde protection, survival is unlikely. The room fell silent. James stood up. Admiral, Counselor, respected delegates, Earth appreciates the Concorde's concern for our safety. We request 3 days to discuss your proposal among our world leaders. 3 days is acceptable. Dorax agreed, though I must emphasize the urgency of your situation. After the aliens departed, the human delegation exploded into argument. This is extortion, shouted the representative from India. But what choice do we have? Countered the Brazilian delegate. You saw what happened to those other worlds. The resource demands would cripple our economies, added the European Union representative. And the bases on Earth. They're essentially asking for military occupation. The debate raged for hours, with no clear consensus emerging. Finally, James asked for silence. We have another option, he said quietly. Over the past 3 weeks, Tom Reed and Anna Wilson have been coordinating a global scientific effort. I believe they have something to show us. Tom activated a holographic display at the center of the room. The Concorde is judging us by their standards. Massive ships, conventional weapons. But that's never been humanity's strength. We adapt. We innovate. We find unexpected solutions. The display showed a network of satellites, thousands of them, far more than Earth currently had in orbit. This is our proposed planetary defense network, Anna explained. Using modified versions of Tom's gravity lens technology, we can create a shield around Earth that no conventional fleet could penetrate. How is this possible? Asked the Chinese representative. The technology is still experimental. It was, Tom said with a small smile. Until we had the motivation to perfect it. The equations work. The miniaturization is possible. We've successfully tested a prototype that protected a 10-kilometer area, and we can scale this up to protect an entire planet. The skepticism in the Secretary General's voice was clear. We can, Anna confirmed, but we'll need resources from every nation, and we'll need to repurpose most of our existing satellites. How long would this take? Asked the U.S. President. James looked grave. 3 months for the basic network. 6 for full coverage. The Concorde gives us 3 days to decide, reminded the Russian president. Then we give them an answer they don't expect, James replied. We tell them we need 3 months to prepare for their protection, while we actually build our own solution. The Secretary General looked troubled. You're suggesting we deceive the Concorde. I'm suggesting we buy time, James corrected. If our system works, we can negotiate as equals, not as suppliants. If it fails, their offer will still stand. After hours of further debate, the world leaders reached a consensus. They would pursue Earth's own defense system while delaying the Concorde. 3 days later, Admiral Dorax and the Concorde delegation returned for Earth's answer. The Secretary General addressed them formally. The nations of Earth have carefully considered your proposal. We are grateful for the Concorde's concern for our safety. Dorax's posture straightened, anticipating acceptance. However, the Secretary General continued, "We require 3 months to prepare our world for your protection. We must relocate certain facilities, adjust our resource production, and prepare our people for this significant change." Admiral Dorax's fins rippled with surprise. 3 months is an unusual request. The standard integration period is 1 week. Earth is not a standard world, James interjected smoothly. Our political systems require time for proper implementation. Surely the Concorde, with its thousands of years of diplomatic experience, understands the need for cultural sensitivity. The Concorde delegates conferred among themselves in low tones. Finally, Councillor Xin stepped forward. 3 months will be granted, but no more. The threat approaches, and the Concorde fleet must establish defensive positions before the Void Swarm arrives. If Earth is not ready when we return, we cannot guarantee your safety. We understand, the Secretary General replied. Earth will be ready. After the aliens departed, James gathered with Tom and Anna in a secure room beneath the UN building. 3 months, Anna said, her voice tight with tension. Is it enough time? Tom ran a hand through his hair. It has to be. Every scientific mind on the planet is working on this. We've already launched the first test satellites. James looked at the global map on the wall, showing research centers lit up across every continent. Humanity has always done its best work under pressure. Now we just need to do the impossible. In orbit, Admiral Dorax watched Earth from his command deck. They're hiding something, he said to his second-in-command. The humans are planning something. Should we maintain surveillance? Dorax considered this. Increase monitoring. If they're building ships, we need to know. And if they're not building ships? Dorax's fins flattened in puzzlement. Then I cannot imagine what defense they think they're creating. Without a fleet, they are simply waiting to be consumed. Little did the Admiral know. The greatest fleet humanity would build wasn't ships at all, but something the Concorde had never imagined possible. The next 3 months transformed Earth in ways no one could have predicted. Old rivalries between nations faded as humanity united against a common threat. Resources poured into the Planetary Defense Network project, codenamed SHIELD. James Miller set up headquarters in a repurposed aircraft hangar outside of London. World leaders had given him extraordinary authority to coordinate the global effort. Maps and screens covered the walls, tracking the progress of thousands of individual projects worldwide. Status report, James called out as he entered the command center one morning, 51 days into their 3-month window. Anna Wilson looked up from her workstation, dark circles under her eyes. We've launched 412 satellites so far. The first orbital ring is nearly complete. And the power issue? James asked. Tom Reed appeared, carrying a steaming cup of coffee, his 5th of the day. Solved, mostly. The fusion boosters are working. Each satellite can now generate 3 times the energy we initially calculated. What about the Concorde observers? James lowered his voice. Anna grimaced. Still watching. They've positioned 4 monitoring vessels in high orbit. They're tracking our satellite launches. Let them watch, Tom said with a tired smile. They're looking for ships. They don't understand what we're building. A young technician rushed up to them. Sir, the test of the Australia sector is ready. They hurried to the main control room, where representatives from dozens of nations had gathered. On the massive central screen, a map showed a section of Australia's outback glowing blue. We've activated 50 satellites positioned over the test zone, Anna explained to the assembled officials. If this works, they'll create a localized shield effect, covering approximately 1,000 square kilometers. And if it doesn't work? Asked the Australian Prime Minister. Tom's expression was grim. Then we need to reconsider our approach. Fast. Anna initiated the countdown. Shield activation in 3, 2, 1. On the screen, the blue area pulsed once, then stabilized. Data streams poured in from monitoring stations. Energy field holding steady. Called out a technician. Gravity lens distortion at optimal levels. Begin the test, James ordered. On another screen, they watched as fighter jets approached the shield area. They fired missiles at the protected zone. As each missile hit the invisible barrier, it seemed to slow, then stop completely, hanging in midair before gently dropping to the ground. A cheer erupted in the control room. "It's working," Anna exclaimed, grabbing Tom's arm. "The gravity distortion is functioning exactly as predicted." "Don't celebrate yet," Tom cautioned, though he was smiling. "This is just one small section. We need global coverage, and we're nowhere close to finished." James addressed the gathered officials. "You've seen what we can do. Now we need to triple our efforts. Every nation needs to increase production of the satellites. Every launch facility on Earth needs to be operating 24/7. The resources required are enormous," said the German Chancellor. "We're already stretching our economies to the breaking point." "It's still less than what the Concorde demanded," James replied firmly. "And when we're done, we'll own our defense system. We won't be paying tribute to alien protectors for generations." That convinced them. In the days that followed, the global effort intensified. Factories around the world converted to satellite production. Rockets launched hourly from sites on every continent. Children watched the night sky fill with new stars, the growing constellation of humanity's shield. In orbit, the Concorde observation vessels monitored this activity with increasing confusion. "They continue to launch small satellites," reported the alien observer to Admiral Dorax. "Over 800 now. But no defensive vessels. No weapons platforms. Just a network of simple communication devices." Admiral Dorax studied the reports with his 4 eyes narrowed. "These are not simple communication devices. They're too numerous, too precisely positioned." "What else could they be?" asked his second-in-command. "They have no offensive capabilities we can detect." "I don't know," Dorax admitted. "But the humans are executing a coordinated global plan. We should inform the Concorde Council." Back on Earth, progress continued at a frantic pace. The satellite network grew day by day, but problems arose as well. "We're behind schedule in the Pacific sector," Anna reported during a late-night meeting, 70 days into their countdown. "Launch facilities in that region are overtaxed." James studied the global map. "Redirect launches from South America to cover the gap. We can't have holes in the network." "There's another problem," Tom added grimly. "The power draw is higher than we calculated. When we activate the full shield, we might experience global power outages." "For how long?" James asked. "Minutes, maybe hours. We can't be sure." James thought for a moment. "Warn all nations to prepare backup systems for critical infrastructure. Hospitals, communications, military facilities. We'll have to weather the blackout until the system stabilizes." As the deadline approached, tension mounted. With just 1 week remaining before the Concorde's return, the satellite network was nearly complete. Over 3,000 devices positioned in precise orbital patterns around Earth. But they had yet to test the full system. "We only get one chance at this," James told the emergency session of the UN Security Council. "When the Concorde returns, they'll expect to see our answer. If we activate the shield too early, they might attack before it's stable. Too late, and they'll think we're rejecting their protection." "Can we be certain it will work?" asked the Secretary General. James looked at Tom and Anna, who exchanged glances. "No," Tom answered honestly. "The math works. The small-scale tests worked. But a planetary shield has never been attempted before. There are variables we can't predict. What we can promise," Anna added, "is that it's our best chance. If we surrender to the Concorde, we lose our autonomy forever. This way, we control our own fate." The Council voted unanimously to proceed. On the final day before the Concorde's scheduled return, Earth made its preparations. Hospitals switched to backup power. Military forces went on high alert, And in the SHIELD command center, James, Tom, and Anna made their final checks. All satellites report ready, Anna confirmed, her voice tense. Network integrity at 98.7%. Tom looked up from his calculations. It's as good as it's going to get. The remaining gaps are small enough that the field should bridge them. James took a deep breath and looked at the countdown clock. 12 hours until the Concorde's return. Begin the activation sequence, he ordered. Let's show the galaxy what humans can do. In orbit, Admiral Dorax's flagship appeared with perfect timing, accompanied by a fleet of 12 massive warships. As they approached Earth, the Admiral observed the planet with growing confusion. Where are their defenses? He asked. I see no fleet, no orbital weapons platforms, just this strange network of satellites. His tactical officer suddenly straightened. Admiral, we're detecting unusual energy readings from those satellites. There. A ripple of blue light spread across Earth's atmosphere, starting at the North Pole and racing toward the equator. As the Concorde fleet watched in astonishment, the entire planet seemed to shimmer for a moment before being enveloped in a translucent, iridescent shell. What is this? Dorax whispered, his fins extended in surprise. What have they done? Admiral Dorax stared at the shimmering blue field surrounding Earth, his fins twitching with confusion and alarm. Around him, the Concorde fleet hung in space, 12 massive warships built to protect planets from the most dangerous threat in the galaxy. Yet now, they faced something entirely unexpected. Analysis, Dorax demanded, his voice sharp. His science officer worked frantically at the control panel. It appears to be some kind of energy field generated by their satellite network. The field is distorting space-time around the planet. Can our weapons penetrate it? The tactical officer ran simulations. Unknown, Admiral. We have no record of this technology in our database. Dorax's second-in-command leaned closer. Should we consider this a hostile action? They've created a barrier without Concorde approval. The Admiral was silent for a moment, studying the blue sphere that Earth had become. No, this is interesting. Open a communication channel. On Earth, in the SHIELD command center, alarms sounded as the Concorde fleet appeared in orbit. SHIELD holding at 94% capacity, Anna reported, her fingers flying over the controls. Power drain is significant, but within acceptable parameters. Global blackouts reported across non-essential systems, added a technician. Emergency backups functioning as planned. James Miller stood before the main screen, watching the alien ships. They're not attacking. That's something. The communication system chimed. Incoming transmission from the Concorde flagship. Put it through, James ordered. Admiral Dorax's face appeared on the screen, his expression unreadable to human eyes. James Miller, the Admiral said evenly. It seems Earth has been productive during our absence. James straightened his shoulders. Admiral Dorax, welcome back. As you can see, we've developed our own approach to planetary defense. So I observe, Dorax replied. An unusual solution. The Concorde records show no similar defensive system in the known galaxy. We're creative that way, James said with a small smile. Indeed. The Admiral's fins rippled slightly. However, this barrier remains untested against actual threats. The Concorde offer of protection still stands. Before James could respond, another alarm blared through the command center. Multiple jump signatures detected, shouted the sensor operator. Large vessels appearing at the edge of the solar system. The screen split to show a new image, a swarm of dark, insect-like ships emerging from what looked like tears in space. There were hundreds of them, perhaps thousands. The void swarm, Anna whispered, her face pale. They're early. Admiral Dorax's image showed he was receiving the same information. It seems the Concorde intelligence was incorrect about the swarm's timeline. They are here now. On the screen, the swarm of ships began moving toward Earth with frightening speed. Your shield is untested. Dorax continued urgently. Allow the Concorde fleet to take defensive positions. This is no longer a negotiation. It is survival. James looked at Tom and Anna, then at the approaching swarm. Making a decision, he turned back to the screen. Admiral, we welcome the Concorde's assistance, but we will rely on our shield as the primary defense. Position your vessels behind our protective barrier. Dorax's eyes widened. You expect us to trust an untested defense system. We do, James replied firmly, and we're about to show you why. The Admiral hesitated, then nodded sharply. Very well. The Concorde fleet will hold position and observe, but we stand ready to engage if your shield fails. As the communication ended, Tom moved next to James. Bold move. Let's hope it works. Activate secondary systems, James ordered. Prepare drone deployment. Throughout the 3 months of building the shield, humanity had been working on another secret project. Hidden in underground facilities and abandoned mines, they had constructed thousands of small, unmanned vessels, each no bigger than a car, but powered by the same gravity lens technology as the shield. Drone swarm ready for deployment, reported the military coordinator. Launch bays opening worldwide. On screens around the room, they watched as the void swarm approached, a dark cloud against the stars, moving with singular purpose toward the resource-rich planet. They're testing the shield, Anna said, monitoring the energy readings, probing for weaknesses. The first void swarm ships reached the blue barrier and immediately fired energy weapons. The shield rippled but held, absorbing the attacks. Shield integrity holding at 91%. Anna reported. The gravity distortion is working. Their weapons are being dissipated. More and more swarm ships arrived, concentrating their fire on different sections of the shield. The blue barrier flickered in spots but continued to hold. They're surrounding the planet, Tom observed. Looking for a weak point. James nodded grimly. Time to show them our second surprise. Launch the drones. Across Earth, hidden bay doors opened in mountains, deserts, and beneath the oceans. Thousands of small, sleek vessels rose into the sky, punching through the shield via carefully calculated exit points. In orbit, Admiral Dorax watched in astonishment as Earth seemed to sprout its own swarm, thousands of tiny ships emerging from the planet's surface. What are those? His tactical officer asked in amazement. I believe, Dorax said slowly, that Earth has a fleet after all. The human drones engaged the void swarm with devastating efficiency. Unlike conventional vessels, they used miniaturized gravity lens technology to create localized distortions in space. Enemy ships found themselves suddenly slowed, their weapons firing at targets that seemed to shift position instantly. Drone performance exceeding expectations, reported the military coordinator. Swarm ships unable to compensate for the gravity shifts. On the main screen, they watched as the human drones darted between the larger enemy vessels. The void swarm, accustomed to overwhelming planets with sheer numbers, found itself outmaneuvered. They're retreating from Sector 7, Anna called out. The drones are herding them away from the shield weak points. Hour after hour, the battle continued. The shield flickered but held. The drones, coordinated by Earth's combined military AI systems, adapted to each swarm tactic. When a drone was destroyed, 2 more took its place. Finally, after nearly 10 hours of continuous fighting, the void swarm began to withdraw. Ship after ship jumped away until only scattered remnants remained, quickly mopped up by the drone forces. In the shield command center, exhausted staff looked at each other in disbelief. We did it, Tom said quietly. The shield held, and the drones performed beyond all projections, Anna added, checking the final statistics. We lost only 22% of our forces. James allowed himself a smile. Now for the diplomatic part. Admiral Dorax requested permission to enter Earth's atmosphere with a small delegation. The meeting took place in the same United Nations hall where the Concorde had delivered their ultimatum 3 months earlier, but the atmosphere could not have been more different. The Concord Council extends its congratulations to Earth. Dorax began, his tone respectful. Your defense of your world was unprecedented. Thank you, Admiral, the Secretary General replied. We hope this demonstrates that Earth is ready to join the galactic community as an equal partner, not as a protectorate. Dorax's fins extended fully, a sign of respect in his species. More than ready. Your approach to planetary defense has shown innovation that the Concord has not seen in 1,000 years. The gravity lens technology alone could revolutionize our defensive strategies across the galaxy. We're open to sharing our technology, James said. As part of a mutual exchange, of course. Of course, Dorax agreed. The Concord would like to propose a new arrangement, full membership with technology sharing in both directions. No resource tributes. No military occupation. A true alliance. The Secretary General smiled. That sounds like a much better starting point for negotiations. Later, as the formal meetings continued, James found himself alone with Admiral Dorax in a quiet corner of the building. I must ask, Dorax said, his voice low, why did you not tell us what you were building? We might have helped. James looked thoughtful. Would you have believed us, or would you have seen it as a desperate attempt to avoid your protection? Dorax's fins rippled in what James now recognized as amusement. Perhaps you are right. We have grown accustomed to being the protectors. It did not occur to us that protection could take such a different form. That's the thing about humans, James replied with a smile. We rarely solve problems the way others expect. You thought we needed a fleet of big ships, but we created something better. Indeed, Dorax agreed, and I suspect the galaxy will never be quite the same because of it. As night fell over Geneva, Earth's new satellite constellation glimmered in the sky, thousands of points of light forming a protective net around the planet. Not the fleet the Concord had expected, but something uniquely human and far more effective than anyone could have imagined.